Hello everybody and welcome to the Royal Blue Podcast. This is a show completely dedicated to Everton goalscorer, Everton hero, Everton legend Kevin Campbell, who sadly passed away over the weekend at the age of just 54. I'm Ian Kroll, joined by Joe Thomas and Chris Beasley. And guys, I'm sure you can tell by my sombre tone that this is going to be a bit of a difficult one to get through. Over the weekend we lost a huge member of the Everton family, a difficult one to take. And although extremely sad, we are going to do our best to share our happy memories and tributes of Super Kev. As was Kevin's impact, not just on Everton but the footballing world in general, he received hundreds of messages of support, well wishes and tributes. And over the course of this podcast, I will read them out. Chris, I'll come to you first because you basically led the tributes with a piece on our website. This is a passing of an Everton great and a difficult one to take, isn't it?
Yeah, you know, we're talking about this where we are today before we obviously start recording this. And I think we were both sort of at the agreement that probably of all the former Everton players who had passed in recent years, this was like the saddest one, the toughest one to take for us. Obviously, Howard Kendall wasn't quite 70 years old when he went. Alan Ball wasn't very old either, and that was tragic circumstances. I mean, you've got like Gary Speed in very different circumstances, but with Kevin, yeah, we knew he was seriously poorly. Joe and I did a podcast the other week, and yeah, I don't mind saying I got very emotional when I was speaking about Kevin that day, and perhaps more so than I thought I would. But then a lot of people we've seen with this, and I saw Alan Stubbs over the weekend, you know, an absolute giant of a man himself, one of the toughest men in football. I think he was holding back the tears when he was speaking about this, just how much Kevin touched everybody as a person. We know first and foremost for Everton, and that's what I was discussing the other week. He was a hero when Everton very much needed it, almost single-handedly saved them from relegation 25 years ago, and I remember that vividly, that massive contribution. Will come on to that, what he did, and then obviously his other footballing achievements with Everton. But yeah, it was Kevin Campbell, the person, and you often hear this when somebody passes, you know, lots of nice things get said about them, but just absolutely universal in terms of the contribution that he made to people's lives, just such a bright, positive character. So that's what makes it just so cruel for him and his family now to be taken so quickly and so soon.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Joe, you know, Saturday, we've just been speaking there, and you said how busy it's been with Everton news over the past couple of days, but, you know, it means very little when we get tragic news like that, like we did on Saturday, isn't it?
I think so. I mean, I know it's a cliche, but it really does put everything into perspective. You know, I'd been on, Chris was off last week, so on my Friday turned into quite something by the end of it. Obviously, we had a real open day of the transfer window with the bid for Braithwaite came in from Manchester United. Arsenal kind of making a bit of informal contact over Amadou and Nana, and the big news of the evening was the emergence of Dan Friedkin as the new front runner in the bid to take over Everton Football Club, and left here very, very late really on Friday night. And you come into the weekend and typically you think, oh, surely it's going to be a quieter day, and then obviously you see news like this, but it just puts everything like that into the background really, and you kind of realise that as important as football is, and yes, transfers and takeovers and that matter, like we're all hanging on for updates and want to know the latest, like it does affect our lives, we know that, but when you get something like this, you realise how just insignificant the rest of that around the game is. The beauty of football is very much the fact that it's it's a game that unites people and spirits and things like that. And I think Kevin Campbell was someone who was an epitome of so much of what was good about the game. We know what he did on the pitch was absolutely phenomenal, but we've seen over the years, and this is clear in the tributes, just how well regarded he was from everything he did off the pitch as well. And after he'd hung up his boots, it's clear that he was an immense character, and you don't get the popularity and you're not held in the esteem by as many people as he is, unless it's genuine. It's quite clear that it was. So, we'd known that he was ill for quite some time, but it still felt, when I was waking up on Saturday morning, when we knew the worst had happened a long time before we wrote a story. But just there are different ways of approaching this, and different organisations have different things. But I think we felt it was important that rather than try and be the first to the news or something like that, this isn't something that's like that. It was more a case of liaising with the club, who were liaising with the family, to kind of just see how things like this could be handled as sensitively as possible. And just throughout that morning, it was just an overwhelming sense of sadness, really. As I say, puts everything else into perspective, and not just in the football, but in life in general.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, my Saturday consisted of taking my daughter to gymnastics and then picking her up, and when I came in, just have a quick look at your phone, and your kids are trying to speak to you, and I just saw that news, and I had to walk into the kitchen because I started welling up, and my wife was kind of like, what's the matter? And couldn't really explain like the situation, because I don't like really understand. But that was my Saturday, and that's how I found out the news. I mean, Chris, just on Kev, he touched on, he was such a positive person. But we will go into his whole career at Everton and everything else that goes along with that. But if you just think back to the time that he did come in on loan, his goals were obviously a great impact to keep the club up. But it also must have been his positive mentality in the dressing room that was a huge help to the team that helped survive relegation.
Yeah, I think that's a big thing that people have spoken about. That's that positivity. And Michael Ball, who's one of our columnists and was his teammate, and knew Kevin very well, and that's what he described him as. I think it's on the lines of Mr. Positivity, and they needed that because they obviously had the Great Escape Part 2, the not so great escape the year before, on the last day against Coventry City. So that had been the second time in 4 years. They'd stayed up on the last day of the season, and then things had sort of improved a bit under Walter Smith, or they just chronically lacked a goal scorer all season that year, 98-99. So many goalless draws, especially at Goodison. They could hardly buy a goal at home, and there was that mad 5-0 win they got at Middlesbrough. That was just sort of like the exception to the norm. And obviously Duncan Ferguson had been sold, their previous number 9, who's such a physical centre-forward for them, in the November. That was the infamous time when Walter Smith said that was done behind his back. With Peter Johnson. So they were missing a focal point. They were missing that huge character in the dressing room, with obviously Ferguson's departure in the previous autumn. And it got to deadline day, when, I remember for our younger viewers and listeners, transfer deadline didn't drop until March before we had the January window, and Everton could play, all clubs could sign players right up to almost like the 3-quarter mark of the season. So, yeah, they were in desperate need of a goal scorer, but also, like you say, a character, a talisman to come in there. And that was Kevin, and it was obviously a strange way it came about. He'd left English football the previous summer, left Nottingham Forest to go to Trabzonspor in the Black Sea area of Turkey, in the east of Turkey there. It actually started well on and off the pitch, and he was enjoying it. And there was this bizarre comment from the president there, where he'd been described as a discoloured cannibal, and obviously it all turned sour. He was looking for escape out of Turkey to come back, and as he famously said, he'd have 5 clubs interested for him, and as soon as he heard Everton's name, he was only going to head to Goodison Park.
I mean, lots of tributes on social media. We'll read Everton's statement out. It starts with, "Everyone at Everton is deeply saddened by the death of our former striker Kevin Campbell at the age of just 54. Not just a true Goodison Park hero and icon of the English game, but an incredible person as well. As everyone who ever met him will know, rest in peace, Super Kev." Joey, he's always going to be remembered for the goal that scored that won the game at Anfield in 1999. A fixture that went far too long without an Everton victory. Obviously, we know what's happened since. We won there, but not with a crowd there. But although he will be remembered for that, he was so much more at Everton as well. He spent a good six or so years there, and he really, for me, truly is an Everton legend.
Yeah, I thought one of the things I thought was one of the best reads. There was some really poignant tributes on Saturday. One of them, I think, was Chris's. Obviously, look at measuring the impact of him, not just as a player at the club, but also his personality on people. And obviously, Chris, you're in a position to write that. It's far better than many's, because you dealt with him, and know him. So, but I thought another one of the very good ones. I thought the club's tribute was very good. Like I really did. I thought it captured him as a person as well as a player, and his impact at the club. he talked with great warmth about how welcome he always was at Goodison Park, even after his playing days, and what a joy he was to do when he'd be there for media duties or anything else. And it really was. It really was a good read there. So I thought it captured him well, and I thought obviously, important. They made note of this, and this will be something to can't look forward to it. But I think it'll be very emotional and hopefully very fit. I'm sure it'll be a very fitting occasion. But it looks like the club are going to try and do something to pay tribute to it at the beginning of next season. And I think that'll be very, very emotional affair. But it's not just the goals that he scored. It's the other landmarks that he had, and obviously the club's first black captain against Coventry City. And he went on to wear the armband more times with a great deal of pride. And it's funny because I think that he almost transcended a bit of a change in English football. I think probably the back end of the 90s, the beginning of the 2000s, where you go from the Premier League being an entertaining and a popular league to then very shortly after becoming the mega league that it is. And you look at some of the personalities that are paying tribute to him, because on the one hand you've got some of the old guard, but then it's easy to forget that he's someone that was around for when Wayne Rooney comes into the side and that. And there's a podcast interview with Under the Cosh of him talking about seeing Rooney for the first time in a friendly at Southport, and the way in which he reflects on that is just absolutely just fascinating to watch. And it really is that kind of of the Premier League era. There are a few people that probably had such a big impact on the pitch, such a big impact off the pitch, held in such reception, but also seen so much interest at the club. As a result of that, obviously he had plenty of anecdotes and a big following as a result of that, but also it means that he touched on many, many people's lives, and we saw that with all those tributes that came out on Saturday. Yeah,
absolutely. And you mentioned Wayne Rooney there. Wayne Rooney took to Twitter over the weekend saying, absolutely devastated to hear the news about Kev. Thinking of all of his family and friends, Kev was a great teammate, but more importantly, a brilliant person who helped me out a lot in the early years. Michael Ball, Chris as well, Echo columnist. We've unfortunately lost a bright diamond, a truly special guy who was always Mr. Positive in my eyes. Rest in peace, Super Kev. I mean, just to touch on Joe said, Everton's first black captain, that is an absolute massive, massive honour. When he took it with aplomb, really, didn't he?
Yeah, he spoke to me about that. I don't know, like we said, we've got this bit of audio which we may use at some point. But I'm not obviously the only person he said that to, but he was really proud of that. But Walter, it was actually when we were speaking after Walter Smith passed, and there we go, thinking, Walter Smith's gone early at 73 or whatever he was, and Kevin's 2 decades almost younger than him. But yeah, I remember speaking to Kevin after Walter passed, and like I said, I was always willing to pick up the phone and to speak, in good times and bad. And yeah, he was really honoured about that. Again, quite rightly so. Now Everton, like all Premier League clubs, multicultural. Got talent from all around the world of all different types of backgrounds. But Everton went into the Premier League era with an all-white squad. Cliff Marshall in the 70s, a local lad, had been like the only black player they'd had up until that point, and obviously then Daniel Amokachi came in for a record fee in 94, and there was at the time I think Evertonians they wanted to show that they were willing to get behind players of all backgrounds, and he was a hugely popular player, but he never had the sort of on-field impact that Kevin had. And he's part of that mural they had up on the Gladys Street last season, I think the year before as well, recognising the players of colour who had contributed to Everton, and obviously Kevin took his place amongst those. He was immensely proud to have got that honour, like you say, Joe, not just being handed down, but actually given the club captaincy as well. And yeah, it just shows you what a leader he was. And even in retirement, I mean, there's great footage of him. There's all kinds going on social media, lovely clips coming out there, and you're just seeing him walking down Goodison Road, just going to a game, and he's being absolutely mobbed, and it's long after he's retired. I mean, even some of the biggest Everton favourites some of the other players don't get sort of receptions like that. And then, he was going along with it. He was loving it. There was a smile on his face. He was singing back himself, arm in the air. And it was just that love and mutual respect and admiration between him and the Evertonians. Yeah, he was a real special player for Everton. I think he got Everton. We might come on to this, but yeah, I think that there was something special. He was 29 years of age when he came to Everton. To get he was a senior player by then. But I think they got each other, and the love and respect was there from the start.
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously those videos have resurfaced online over the past couple of days. Really good stuff. You're not wrong when you're saying you're walking down Goodison Road being absolutely mobbed by hundreds of Blues outside. Absolutely really good stuff to see. It was really good. And Joe, obviously over the past couple of days, videos have surfaced of montages of his goals at Goodison, and some of the away ones as well, and it brings back special memories of the goals that he scored. But he was literally a fox in the box. Every goal basically that he scored, he knew where the net was. If I nearly swore then.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
I nearly swore. But he was also got it written down here, he's the most prolific striker never to play for England, which is obviously a massive shame and really a shocking decision considering the amount of goals that he did score throughout his career, and specifically more so for Arsenal, Nottingham Forest and Everton as well.
Yeah. I mean, you go back to that time, and to be honest, I remember it fondly because it's nostalgia for me because I was a kid. So I probably can't go into too much about the politics of the England setup and some of the decision makers at the time. Chris might be better placed for that because you'd have had a more professional and a more mature eye looking at. Obviously, you look at that late 90s period. It's a time that you've got likes of Algier and Teddy Sheringham having you kind of in their pomp, and Michael Owen coming through. You'd have had Andy Cole and another player who didn't really probably get a fair crack at England.
Ferdinand and that era as well.
Ian Wright would have been around.
Yeah.
So I mean, there is a crowd that's sitting there. Chris, I'd be interested in your thoughts on just, as I say, I'm a bit too young to know this, but I mean, was there a clamour for him to be in the side, or was there an acceptance?
No, I think to be fair, look at Kevin's career. His first club, Arsenal. He actually, well, first of all, I don't think there was a great clamour necessarily for him to be in the England setup, but I don't think that ever sort of put him off. He wasn't bitter about that, and I think he was represented. I played at under 21 level for England, but at his first club, Arsenal, he won all the domestic honours. He won the league, he won the FA Cup, the League Cup, and he won the Cup Winners' Cup as well. Won a lot with Arsenal, his first club, the club where he grew up. But I just in passing, he made his senior debut at Goodison Park against Everton. Didn't score that day, came on as a sub. I think he scored over 60 goals for Arsenal's youth teams that season. So they gave him a go on the last day of the season when George Graham wasn't even there, the Arsenal manager. It was back in the day before we had the internet and sort of all these global scouting networks now, that it was probably profitable for Arsenal manager George Graham to go off on a scouting mission last game of the season, nothing to play for. So Theo Foley, the number 2, was in charge and they gave him a goal there. He didn't score that game. He did have a big chance. He headed just wide of Southall's goal from a Lee Dixon cross. But no, I don't think there was a great clamour. But yeah, like I say, and on the other hand, it is a great record time if you're not capped to be the most prolific uncapped Englishman in the Premier League. So no, to answer your question, Joe, I don't think there's nothing against Kevin. I don't think there was a great clamour. Like you said, there was a lot of top strikers around in that day, and I don't think anyone would even claim that he's Everton's best centre forward of the Premier League era. For me, I think Romelu Lukaku's head and shoulders above everyone on that respect, personally. But Romelu Lukaku's never going to be loved at Everton the way that Kevin Campbell is. He doesn't get Everton the way that Kevin Campbell did. He's not an Evertonian the way that Kevin Campbell was. And I think, like I said, it goes beyond that as mere football. Yes, he saved Everton when Everton needed a hero the most. It was an incredible feat of scoring. It's probably, I don't know, to get Statman Gavin for this one, but I don't remember anyone having such a sort of important purple patch in front of goal the way that Campbell did with those 9 goals in 5 games since the days of Dixie Dean closing in on his record. But yeah, it goes beyond what he did in terms of playing for Everton, which he was great at. It's not saying nobody's saying he's the greatest Everton player, but he's possibly one of the most loved.
That's what I find interesting as well. People talk about the 9 goals in 8 games, but it wasn't actually that, was it? It was.
That was, he played 8 games, but those 9 goals came across 5
the
games.
5 games, which is, is an even better stat. I mean, we'll continue on with some of the tributes. So Don Hutchinson, obviously another former teammate. I'm not even sure I can put into words. Kev was the most happy, energetic, glass always half full lad. His smile, his eyes would just light up the room. Skipper, it was my pleasure sharing a dressing room with you. Sleep well, pal. And Tony Cottee as well. I'm so devastated to hear the news of the passing of Kevin Campbell, the nicest man you could wish to meet and a fantastic player. Thoughts to his friends and family. Rest in peace, Kev. I mean, the amount of tributes. I mean, he played for a lot of clubs as well, didn't he, Joe? Obviously West Brom, Arsenal, Nottingham Forest, us. I think there was a couple of others as well.
A long spell at Leyton Orient when he was younger as well.
Cardiff, I think.
Yeah,
Cardiff are in there. So, he spent a bulk of his career in Everton, and that's where I feel like maybe on some level the same as Arsenal, but obviously we're going to be a bit biased and we're obviously going to try and claim him. But it's not just Everton, is it? It's the footballing fraternity that has lost someone today. Lost someone at the weekend.
Yeah, I think so. I saw Liverpool supporters paying tributes, saying obviously, he scored the winner against them at Anfield, and you still won't find anybody with from that half of the city to find a bad word or dislike him or have anything other than immense respect for him. And it's interesting because the thing with Kevin Campbell is obviously he's been all over the country involved in the football clubs, and so many people have got good stories with him as a result. But I think one of the things that's just really interesting is, like you were saying about some of them experiences and Goodison Road and stuff like that, is it's clear that he was, everything he was on the camera or on social media, he was off it as well. No one had a bad word to say of him. Everyone had a positive experience. Even it sounds daft, but obviously his son's a football player as well. Tyrese, he plays for Stoke. Now Tyrese went on loan to Shrewsbury, which is where I'm from, good couple of years ago now. But he struck up a friend. He ended up sitting next to my uncle for the home games, and they ended up striking up a friendship. He used to travel to the games. It was give each other lifts. He used to give him the lift to the games every now and then, and meet up with him. And it was just that kind of, when you look at who he was, everything he'd done in the game, everything like that. I think one of the things that comes across is that willingness to spend time and to be on. He's got such a lofty reputation and has meant so much to so many people for what he's done on the pitch. And he's still incredibly humble off it, and still somebody that is just down to earth and will treat everybody with respect, and has no kind of issue with striking up a friendship with someone who he just doesn't know from a place that he doesn't know, and that's it. And just get on just like that. And it just really is. It's just absolutely fascinating. When you think about how unapproachable some people can be when they've got such an illustrious career on such a high profile level as someone like Kevin, and clearly he just wasn't like that at all. He was just like, again, cliche, but man of the people. He could get on with anyone by the sounds.
Absolutely. And I'm sure a lot of people will have memories of Kevin, whether you've met him or you haven't met him. I mean, as a young budding Evertonian at the time, and around when he joined 99 and from on, I can't remember my age, but I remember being outside Goodison Park after the game, and my auntie used to take me to the game. We always used to go to Winslow afterwards. So obviously I wasn't drinking at the time, too young to. So I'd come out and play football with a couple of whoever was hanging around. We'd somehow find the ball, and the bit where the church meets Goodison Park, still along Goodison Road, Paul Gascoigne came out, and everyone's like, oh, going crazy. Kevin Campbell also came out as well, and they were having this conversation, and I must be like really small, must have been all that big, and trying to listen to what they're saying, let them finish the conversation. There's loads of kids around, and he just, both of them, to be honest, Paul Gascoigne and both Kevin Campbell, both giving autographs, saying hello to the kids. It wasn't a time where you could take a picture or selfies, but just for me personally, that was a really fantastic memory. I'm sure everyone's got those little memories that special to them. I mean, Chris, so you were in contact with him every now and again. We even obviously before we knew he wasn't well, we tried to get him for an interview, didn't we, for the Goodison Park My Home series?
Oh, we'd have loved to have that. I mean, that would probably be. It's going well. We've got Derek Temple in. It was the latest one we had earlier today, and that's going to be a very special one. But it's always going to be a huge regret now that we didn't get Kevin. We were hoping there, speaking to Michael Ball, and given that we'd spoken to him a few times, we'd have loved to have had Kevin in. So hopefully there'll be many more to come, and it's a great series we believe for the final season at Goodison Park. I'm really looking forward to doing plenty more of them. But yeah, it'll always be a huge regret that obviously Kevin wasn't well enough to come and join us. I mean, it's horrible. I mean, I think in terms of I remember him, like we're talking about claiming Kevin Campbell. I don't think anyone has to claim Kevin Campbell. Like I said, he's so loved at all the clubs that he played for. But if I may, I've just got a couple of things here that I spotted in recent times, because a lot of people have made much of it. They look back through his socials and they saw that, I think was it on Instagram, he put some message a while back saying health is wealth. But I spotted on his Twitter feed, he'd done a few retweets, but the actual last tweet that he'd done was quite fitting. It was the night of the derby. Get in, DCL 2-0. That was the last tweet that Kevin did. The County Road Bobblers actually put, I presume possibly somebody of a similar vintage to myself, but they're talking about Kevin Campbell, and he said he didn't grow up as an Evertonian, but he died as one. He fell in love with us as quick and as hard as we did with him. He had the heart of a lion, and he went to war for us every time he put on that royal blue jersey. It's like he took the honour personally. I honestly wish more would realise what it meant for him. He absolutely knew. He loved us unconditionally, and we might not have been his first love, but we were his last. Today we lost one of our own. So I think that sums it up for me.
Yeah, well, to be honest, Chris, I'm gonna say that is the perfect way to end it. But yeah. I also want to say, what do you think his legacy at Everton, or as an Everton player, is going to be then? Yeah,
his legacy as a player will be as the man who saved Everton almost single-handedly in 1999. With those incredible spate of goals, and obviously going on to score the winner in the derby. But like you say, he did several years of great service, became the club's first black captain. But yeah, like I said earlier, I don't think anyone is saying he's the greatest Everton player, but he's certainly one of the most loved. And the club have spoken, as Joe said, they might be planning some sort of tribute or something going forward to him. I don't know how that might pan out, but personally I think there could be a lot worse ideas, and maybe given that Kevin went into the media punditry himself in retirement after he'd hung up his boots, why not name the new media room at the new stadium after Kevin? That's a shout from me, just an early one, I don't know, but certainly something like that would be a fitting tribute for him.
Okay, well, we'll finish it there, lads. I've been Ian Kroll with Chris Beasley and Joe Thomas, and this has been the Royal Blue Podcast's tribute to Super Kev Campbell.